Yes, this is good. And again. That's it. And again. Try and breathe. Relax.
Donald J. Trump is the 47th president of the U.S. of goddamn A.
So I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
'45th and 47th.
Yeah. Just before we get into that, something quite interesting. In 2004, there was roughly 122 million voters. 2008, there was roughly 131 million. 2012, 129 million. 2016, 136 million. Then in 2020, 158 million. 2024, 141 million.
And the thing is, if Trump had got in 2020, he wouldn't have had the Senate and the House.
Yeah. And more in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so that would have been him done now, wouldn't it? That would have been him finished, so...
Yeah. Well, everything happens for a reason. But he got more youth vote, more of the blank votes, Latino votes, and as The View said, uneducated white women. There's been racist remarks against the black and Latinos. I think Barry Obama coming out to lecture black men, if you don't vote our way, you ain't a black man.
How do you think the war will swing in Ukraine now that Trump's in?
It depends on who's around him. For my pick, it would be Colonel McGregor. He seems to be an intelligent chap. I want to come back to him with the Ukraine thing. And the Democrats have also proved that in exactly the same way with Brexit, when we were getting all these movie film stars and singers, you should vote to remain. Democrats thought it a good idea to get in Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Oprah Winfrey, Jennifer Lopez, Cardi B, never goddamn heard of her, Megan Thee Stallion, never heard of her, Robert De Niro, Trump's greatest admirer, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Bruce Springsteen, etc. You know, all the usual
crowd.
Yeah, we're leaving. If he wins, we're going. You can take that to the bank. Holy fuck.
See, the thing is, the Democrats, no matter what they said this time, people have experienced 4 years of them.
Yeah.
They've had 4 years of the shit that we've had for the last 4 months with Labour.
Yeah, and when Carmela was asked, what would you do, and would you do anything different? She says, well, I wouldn't have done anything different. So she didn't want to throw Joe under the bus there, but I firmly believe she had no ideas of her own anyway.
Well, she can't even talk.
No.
Never mind have ideas.
Yeah.
Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars.
Yeah, that's going to help Americans with a pay packet, isn't it? Yeah. Looks like we're going to get kicked out, sweetheart, but at least we can see the stars at night. And then you got Trump supporters on the other side, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, Joe Rogan, RFK, and I want to speak about that chap.
If vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away. People ought to have choice, and that choice ought to be informed by the best information. So I'm going to make sure the scientific safety studies and efficacies are out there, and people can make individual assessments.
Tucker Carlson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Caitlyn Jenner, believe that or not, Buzz Aldrin, Mel Gibson, Donna White, Russell Brand. He seems to be a flip-flopper, this chap, doesn't he? Yeah.
Or has he seen the light?
Yeah, hopefully.
He might have seen the stars.
He might have, yeah.
You never know. But the thing is, that's all the Democrats did was slag people off and abuse what Trump was about, what he was going to end the world, basically. But I never heard them talk about the economy or all the important things to the American people.
Can someone tell me what MAGA men find attractive so that I can wear the complete opposite? Thanks.
If you're queer and your family voted for Trump like mine did, hi, hello, I'm your mother now. Just checking in. Have you drank water today? Did you eat?
I mean, people say, you talk to people and they say American politics is totally different to ours. And it is, but there's a lot of similarities at the minute, especially like the border, you know, unsecure border like we've got, illegal immigration. It's a big problem in America at the minute, even bigger than ours. But
yeah, green energy, gas prices.
These are the massive things that matter to people day to day.
Yeah,
like this net zero nonsense that we're being pushed upon us. The Donald says he's going to drill.
Drill, baby, drill.
And for me, for my two-pen, if that's what we should be doing, our first thing should be getting our energy security. I mean, the last couple of weeks here, what we've had no wind, we've had no sunshine. Saw the blue sky yesterday for the first time in about 3 weeks. It's nonsense. And all it's going to do is affect people more and more and make people poorer. You've got your lunatics like Miliband who are on this net zero craze. None of it makes sense.
Looking at Labour, their front bench is like a student union meeting. And they've not had the brains and the judgment. When Trump was in first time, you got Angela Rayner. And she said, I'm so happy to see back a Trump. I don't like Trump. He's a racist and a bigot. Don't like him. Now she's having to eat her words. You got David Lammy, thick as two short planks. He said Trump is a woman-hating neo-Nazi sympathiser. He's a racist KKK. And KKK Democrats, weren't they? And he also said years prior, Britain was founded on institutional racism and white supremacy. When the next pope was being chosen, he says, will the smoke be black or white? So he's one of these race baiters that just can't leave it alone. But he's enjoying the fruits of a good upbringing, and he's sat on Labour's front bench. He had a better upbringing than we did.
He's a worry, Lammy. He's a danger. I think he's a danger to the country. Go back a couple of years ago, they cannot in their wildest dreams ever thought that they would be in power.
No.
It's only because the Tories made such a balls up of it that they've got anywhere near Parliament. And so they're just all like people in there who thought they could say what they wanted because in opposition you can say more or less what you want.
There's deep ramifications when you open your mouth as a politician, and to open your mouth about our greatest ally, which Labour hate to acknowledge. They are, if Trump gets his full reign to do as he desires, with a good set of people around him, they will compete with China in this. You've heard about this Belt and Road initiative with China right through to Europe for goods and energy, etc. If the USA play the cards right, they could become leaders in this, because where they are situated, you've got the Atlantic Ocean to one side with a fast-track sail to Europe and Africa, on the other side for Japan and India, etc. So if they can build some kind of fast-link train service to get their goods from east to west on their coast, and then get it straight to Europe and Japan, India, etc., they will be a massive powerhouse producing their own goods.
They are. And then They've always been a massive powerhouse, but things at times are changing. They're changing with BRICS. They're changing with the US is in so much debt. It's unbelievable.
Why can't politicians see this? Are they so dumb and inept?
Yeah.
They've got to be. Yeah.
Short answer, yeah.
But just, we'll talk about that in a bit. I just want to come back to Labour and what they're going to do with Trump. Rachel Reeves, she's got a picture of a communist on a wall.
That's incredible.
You couldn't write it, could you?
It's what Trump's going to do with Labour, because they're not going to have a say in it. It's as simple as that. So America will do what they want with Britain. Starmer, for me at the minute, is just cuddling up to Europe, to France and Germany mainly.
Well, Germany are in disarray, aren't
He
they?
seems to have this unhealthy relationship with Macron. I think they share a few traits, similar traits.
He desperately wants us to get back in the pyramid scheme that's the European Union.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Definitely.
Without a doubt. And he never hid that, did he? He wanted another referendum.
Well, most did, didn't they, politicians?
Yeah.
So you've got Sadiq Khan. He said a lot of disparaging things about Trump because, you know, he thinks he's
I watched
little
one of these debates yesterday in, you know, they had Khan in, and basically they're saying to him, he's saying that London is a safer place today than when he took over. So they give him all the stats: knife crime up so many 100%, rape, murder, burglary, street robbery. Just went through everything, and it's just everything is through the roof. And then so they say, we'll ask you that question again: is London a safer place? And he said yes. And the person asking the question just said, astonishing. He can sit there, and does he actually believe what he's saying? It's frightening.
First time I was working in London was 1980s. And as decades went by, you could see a marginal difference. London. You've seen it yourself. It's a shithole.
Personally, I like London. I like going to London. It is changing demographically. It's changing for the worse.
It's gone like New York.
But crime-wise, it's out of control.
I loathe it. I loathe having to go there. So you got Sadiq Khan, Keir Starmer, he said his derogatory things. You got the West Streeting Health Secretary, he's also piped in. So you've got much of Labour's front bench of giving it what for about Trump. And now they must be absolutely bricking themselves. And they're all sending him these public begging letters, tweets, etc. Or should we say kisses, because it's X now. Yeah, sending kisses, saying, "Dear Donald, we love you so much. Please forget about the past. We're willing to bend over and acquiesce to whatever you want, sir. Please forgive us. We'll even send you King Charles III over to do a bit of diplomacy." But they won't let Nigel Farage just... Farage is a friend of Trump. I don't know how deep you can be a friend of Donald Trump, but, you know, he knows him pretty well. And Labour aren't using that to the advantage for the British and the British concern.
They're not at the moment, but they can't use Nigel Farage. They couldn't be seen as a party to be using the leader of another party to act as go-between. It just...
Are you saying they've got no one better in then?
They wouldn't be able to do that. It's just, it would make them look more inept than what they are. That's never going to happen. I can't see that happening. It's just not. It's not viable, is it? They're never going to let that happen.
I'd rather be wrong and do the right thing
Nigel is great. I mean, I've known him for a long time. He had a great election, too. Picked up a lot of seats, more seats than he was allowed to have, actually. They acknowledge that he won, but for some reason you have a very strange system over there.
Yeah, but that's like, it would be more or less them saying, right, we can't deal with this ourselves.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, whoever's in power, they've got a lot of diplomats behind the scene who are not governmental people. They're just diplomats.
Yeah.
So they've got them at their disposal, and that's the people they need to use. And as much as I think Farage could do the job, that's just not going to happen.
I think he'll be an oil that greases the wheels, Nigel.
I think he'll just be a hindrance to them. And if he's got any sense, he'll bury them. If he wants to bring the Reform Party forward, he's just got to make it as awkward and as poor for Labour as possible.
Nigel is patriotic, though, isn't he? I can't see him cutting his nose off to spite his face. Like that.
He says so, but his ambition has got to be to get Reform to be a party to challenge at the next election. And if he doesn't do that, he's not doing his job right, is he?
Yeah. I know, though, Trump and J.D. Vance and a few others around Donald will be talking to a few English people about the situation over here and what's happening.
Are they all in the same club? That's what we've got to worry about. Are the people just being played once again?
It's very possible, Dan. Just going back to the Tory new leader, Kemi Badenoch. She seems a nice girl.
And so I would like to start by congratulating President-elect Trump on his impressive victory this morning. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath, he is also a profound threat to the international order. And if he did not apologise, will the Prime Minister do so now on his behalf?
She wanted to welcome President Trump in.
Again, last week, posing in front of WEF.
Yeah, you just can't get away from it.
You can't get away from them.
Yeah, but she was relishing being vociferous in saying, are you going to welcome Trump in and will you apologise for this? And Labour are like, you know, they're on the House of Commons, they're like chimpanzees flinging feces at each other.
I must admit, first PMQs, she were pretty good. But saying that, Slushy Rushy, he gave such a strong speech that day on his outgoing speech.
Yeah,
he never did that when he was holding any power. Where did he get them balls from just for that last farewell speech? Where did his balls come from?
I remember seeing the Tories, Jacob Rees-Mogg, who has said some good things, but he's been a bit insipid at times. And I remember seeing him laid out on the House of Commons seats and thinking, these people are lazy, they're going to lose it. They're not doing what they said they would do. And it just seems to be this balance of power that the ball is thrown over to their court for 4 years or 5 years, and then you get this arguing back and forth. But meanwhile, this plan is going forward that everyone has to acquiesce to.
This is what I'm saying. The two cheeks are the same arse, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
And are the Republicans and the Democrats the same in the US?
I think a lot are the neocons and the people that take donors' money, which is bribes. And it's same with coming back to Labour with Angela Rayner. And what do you mean I've been clothes shopping? Yeah, I've bought some shoes. Yeah, a Muslim bought them me. What was Lord Ali buying Labour gifts for if he didn't want something in return? You don't do that.
No, they all want something in return, don't they?
Yeah. So if you put that to a much higher level, when people are paying politicians millions of pounds, can you not go against my company that's making things that might be making people ill? Which I think Robert Kennedy's going to stop, because he's been vociferous in this for donkey's years.
The best of everything about this that I see is what Robert Kennedy's saying he's going to do. Now, if he carries through what he says he's going to do, and he's allowed to do that, then fantastic. But again, time will tell. We've just got to hang in there for a few months and see. I mean, his stance on the vaccines, mainly vaccines for children, this fluoride scandal or scam or whatever you want to call it, that's been forced upon people. He says he's going to do something about that. Again, we've got to wait and see, haven't we?
Being a Satanist means rebelling against them because they're wrong. And as long as you draw a breath, every breath you take is a rebellion.
Oh boy, I'm not ready for the world. I just came back from the grocery store and I saw a white woman with a Trump bumper sticker on her car, and I told her exactly what I thought of her. I called her a dumb B-word.
Nancy Pelosi does not give one shit about poor black men living in Detroit, Chicago, etc. She could not give a shit. All she cares about is making more money and having her hair done. She's a career politician. And it's the same with the Labour in our country. The champagne socialists, they've got a lot of money, these people. And every time the working class stick two fingers up at them, they just can't believe it. They're like, this is our fan base. And it's not. Labour stopped being working class when Blair got in. It all changed with Blair and the people that pay him.
I just watched the guy this morning. He was the ex-advisor to Tony Blair. And he says we should treat the farmers like Margaret Thatcher treated the miners, and that we don't need small farms. I couldn't believe what I'm listening to. And these are the sort of people that they are still listening to. Mm. Of course, it helps with the carbon footprint, doesn't it, to drag it halfway across Europe.
Yeah.
I stayed up watching the election, and what I found really interesting, I kept flicking through the channels, our channels, media channels, American channels, and every single channel was saying the same thing. It's so close, it's neck and neck, and they were even explaining how I learned a lot about the American system that I always found quite confusing before, but I understand how it works now. And they were still saying, but so Trump in this state is 51%, she's 49, it's so close. But even when it was 5 points difference, don't take that because such and such area of this is Democrat, so they've still come in, they haven't been counted yet.
Yeah, well, I had this feeling that it was going to be a whitewash one way or the other. From all that I'd seen of Trump's rallies and support and the young base that was grown around this with the Joe Rogan podcast. Trump went on Joe Rogan, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk. They recognise that this is the young person's TikTok as well, etc.
Well, did you see that? Very interesting thing. They reckon all the young voters who have never normally voted for Trump, a lot did. And how they're saying now how he got a lot of them votes, his grandson persuaded him to go onto TikTok and do promotional stuff on TikTok. And I watched some of the stuff and it were amazing quotes he was putting out there and everything. It was really appealing to young people.
But the left have got to admit that they've had a long run by all their news channels there are probably just as many left-wing YouTube channels out there as right-wing, if you want to play sides.
Well, I'd say possibly more, because a lot of your right-leaning stuff gets took down.
Yeah, definitely. They've got the Colbert and the Kimmels and the Bill Maher to an extent. They've got all these left-wing liberals on mainstream media channels that are paid millions every year.
Not to mention all your stars who are pushing it.
Yeah,
pushing
your
that.
Hollywoods, your singers. That worked well. And then all the press, the left-wing press, 24/7.
Do you know if Elon Musk hadn't took over X, Twitter, I wonder what difference that would have made. That's got to have had a massive influence.
I know a lot of left-wing people that have said, oh, I'm cancelling my X account, which is, you'll not be missed. But it is a massive medium. And the chap from Facebook, Zuckerberg, that's a nice name. I think that he's smelt the coffee. You know, he's thought, oh shit, looks like Trump's going to get in this time. But to have the free speech to criticise the government is a basic human right, and that's what the Labour Party in this country were denigrating and trying to abate. It's every person's right to mock and to have a pop at the government. It's the basic principle of being a human being. Converse, swap ideas. That's why they're trying to stop people going to the pub, the old tavern. And X is just a modern equivalent of that.
It's the only platform where you seem to be able to say what you want, more or less, isn't it?
None of us are stressed about the election, right?
So buckle up. Hope you freaking Republicans are happy.
I say we pass a law that requires anyone who voted for that orange piece of shit to wear their Trump hat.
If you're wondering if it's hard to be a therapist right now, it is. It really is. And I saw a woman walking her 2 kids, and she had this look on her face.
I haven't changed my map. Check it out. I still have Harris as getting 349 electoral votes.
Like, we're just gonna wake up tomorrow morning and everything's gonna go back to the way it'll be a psych. It'll be like a really bad dream.
What kind of person makes a video of themselves crying, screaming, kicking a TV,
shaving their heads,
We're all going to wear these blue bracelets. We're all going to do this. Yeah. And then having the audacity and just lack of intellect to put this on air so all the world can see it. It's just, those are the people that you actually don't want voting for you.
Freedom of speech has got to come top of the list now. That's really got to come back. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression. They're making all the right sounds. They're going to do that. Again, we'll see. We'll see. It's easier to say stuff before you get elected.
Yeah.
But I think this time, the world's eyes are on Trump. So he's got to carry on and deliver what he said he's going to do. Same with Musk. Same with Kennedy. And if they don't, they're just going to look like fools.
Well, there's two things to this. Trump, when he first got in, he was wet behind the ears. He didn't know how Washington worked, so he did hire a lot of people that, at worst, were inept. So he's learnt a lot in that time from how Washington works. And I think he's got a much more vibrant young team around him this time. I'm not saying that won't happen again with one or two people, but not getting Mike Pompeo back on board. I hope he gets Colonel McGregor. He's got Tulsi Gabbard, which everything that she's ever said is sent to be a positive, good I can't remember saying anything that's pretty bad.
I thought he'd had Candice Owens a bit closer in there.
He may well. I don't know. I don't know at all.
Who she actually got voted with, Kamala, was only in the cities. So you've got New York State, Washington, California. So everything else in between is all Trump everywhere, but they only get like 1 seat or 2 or 3 seats. But when you look at the map of America, it's red. It's just red. Yeah. And then it was interesting with your 7 swing states, he took every one.
Yeah. And California's more red this time.
More red, but still finishes blue.
Yeah.
And it's your big cities, and it's similar here when you look at
London, Birmingham.
Yeah, where Labour are getting their votes. You've got your main cities. You've got Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Sheffield, Birmingham, London, Bristol. You know what I mean? That's where a lot of their vote from. Their votes come from. And you look at the rest of the country, the real country.
Yeah.
And it's different. And this is, I mean, London. It's like a country in itself now, isn't it?
It's just gone.
It's not like being part of the UK.
Yeah. Because they are short-sighted, they keep bringing these extra bodies in the hope that they're going to vote for them, but they are massively shifting the demographic and culture of a 1,000-year country. And they don't care, because once they get what they want, they get that little bit of power for 4 years, etc. Then they can do a speaking tour and write a book, and then they can retire in the Algarve or something. There's all these traitors in Westminster.
Oh, the Cotswolds.
Yeah. And they'll do anything to screw the country up just as long as they can attain power for a brief period and then be on the gravy train for life.
I'm all right, Jack. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's life. Unfortunately, that's not just politics. That's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
But politics is just...
If Trump gets the right people for the job around him, let's talk about Ukraine. Most British people and Americans didn't know where Ukraine was on the map prior to 2022.
I did, because I've been there.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you this before, it's the most corrupt place I've ever been to.
So if Trump gets in, what do you think he's going to do?
People getting killed day in, day out, from both sides, from Russia and Ukraine. For what?
Well, since 2022, we've always known that there's no way Russia is going to lose this. They've got more than enough human beings to put into the meat grinder. They've got more than enough artillery, tanks and foreign weapons even to keep this going.
And the thing is, they've been sanctioned to death, and yet their economy's grown. Whilst everybody who's sanctioning them, their economy's gone to shit. So that in itself speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they've created a greater alliance between Russia, China, etc.
Iran.
Yeah, so that's not good.
Even India make the right noises about Russia now.
Against a regime that ain't going to stop. We saw what they did against the Nazis, Germans in World War II. All right, they were reclaiming their territory, but that war machine was not going to abate.
No.
So the only way to do it is to go in and start talking like adults and negotiate.
Which is what they did right at the beginning, didn't they? And then Bozza, in his wisdom, there was an agreement made in Turkey, and he pulled back from Kiev. The agreement was there, that war could have been stopped, and for some reason, Boris Johnson, in his wisdom, which I don't believe was his wisdom, I don't think he's bright enough to do that. I think he was led by Biden's crew to keep that war going. And I personally, my personal belief is because it's the biggest washing machine of money in the world.
So do you think Trump's going to come in and say to Zelensky, look, you ain't got our dollars anymore, good luck?
Trump Jr. put out an interesting post a couple of days ago, just saying basically your
money's ended.
Your money's ending.
Wow.
To Zelensky. So hopefully that is. I mean, again, it's my opinion, but I think the man's a clown, and he's running round with his little action man suit on, standing up in people's parliaments and getting clapped, and it's ludicrous.
There's no way that Europe could carry on supplying Ukraine with armaments, etc.
Well, we've just committed $3 billion a year for as long as it takes, allegedly, in the budget, whilst we're taking to save $1.2 billion and freezing the pensioners to death. So give the pensioners the money and just take it off Zelensky. Just stop his wife getting so many new luxury cars and luxury shopping trips that she keeps doing.
And there was all that talk about, well, if we don't stop Russia here, they're going to expand and they're going to move through Poland and blah, da, 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 da.
Don't believe that for a minute.
Yeah.
Putin's got enough on his hands sorting the area out that he's trying to sort out, the Donbass, looking after Crimea and looking after his own border. And he's not a stupid man, is he?
No, he's very intelligent, and so are the people around him. He knows he's in a very good position now, so I don't think he'll be committing too much between now and...
He'll come to some sort of arrangement with Putin. I think that's inevitable. That will happen. I certainly hope it will. What will be more interesting is what happens in the Middle East with Israel.
Just before that, I was reading a bit of Trump's modus operandi with deals, and a few other businessmen's take on how to do the ultimate deal. So both sides in Ukraine and Russia, they are going to have to lose something. They're going to have to negotiate and compromise on something. But what you do is you give them a sweetener on top.
Yeah, it's a good point, that, Luke. And I think the obvious gain for Ukraine would be NATO membership. Now it's whether Putin will stand for that.
No, he won't.
They could split the Ukraine up. He could take the Donbass, keep Crimea, and a proviso and some treaty signed where they become part of NATO but unarmed. So they become unarmed, they're part of NATO, and it only ever comes into effect if they get invaded. Mm-hmm. So NATO would then have to back them if Russia ever pushed further into Ukraine. That could possibly work.
They'll probably try and keep the eastern flank of Europe as a buffer zone.
Yeah, so it is a buffer zone, but if they ever get invaded, then it's part of NATO.
Yeah, and we have repudiated some deals in the past that have inflamed Russia's
the Minsk agreement and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think he'll offer Zelensky a sweetener deal, personally. And some of the
Don't you think he's had enough?
I think he's had more than enough. He'll offer that cabinet a sweetener deal.
He were a $25 a show frigging comedian.
Yeah.
He's worth billions. Certainly millions.
Yeah. And there'll be some kind of, well, this area of Ukraine that you've got left, we'll rebuild it and it'll look swanky and blah, da, 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 da. And it'll be big business for all the people that have got a little bit of shares in it all. I think that's what'll happen.
See, there's a lot of minerals, etc. in Ukraine, isn't there? It's a very rich country for minerals and
farm agriculture, is it?
Yeah, biggest wheat growers in the world.
Oh, Gates will have that.
Well, talking about Gates, what the hell was he doing with Larry Fink the day before the budget in Downing Street? No one's answered that question yet. What the hell was he doing there? And then they chuck these tariffs, this crazy thing where they're going to take people's farms off them. The biggest farm landowner in the US is one Bill Gates. Are they lining him up to buy farmland in this country to stick his factories on to make false crap, false meats, false whatever? I'm liking hearing Trump the last few days is going against the globalists. If that's sincere, then we might have some hope. Trump saying, make America great again. That was never the case under the Biden. All the time, Putin gets the message out there that he's going to look after his own people. China, they put it out there that they'll look after their own people. But for some reason in the West, we want to look after everybody else, but not our own people. And that's throughout the West. You look what's happening throughout Europe. They want to talk. The talk is look after everybody. Take the world's problems on. How about looking after their own people? Look at this country at the minute. It's never about our people, is it? It's look after everybody else.
Yeah, there's constant...
I mean, we have a budget where we're just raping our own people, but we're going to send millions and billions to everywhere, whether it be 3 billion to Ukraine this week, so many hundreds of millions to look after, help people with their climate control.
Going to give France billings for not stopping any illegals leaving their coast for hours.
It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's always about giving money to other people. And there's no money for our own people. There's no money for hospitals. There's no money for the pensioners. There's no money for the farmers. What the hell's going on?
They've killed our industry. We had some of the best products in the world. Cars, amplifiers, white goods, TVs.
Close their minds and import it in from Poland, Australia, South America.
Yeah.
And then we talk about carbon footprints.
So what do you think Trump's going to do with Israel?
So many things have happened over the last few years with Trump, with his wearing his little Jewish hat, in my opinion.
It's a right argument.
It is a right argument, but it's a fact.
Who are the donors?
That will be more interesting than what happens in Ukraine is what happens in the Middle East. Because that's just such a tinderbox. I honestly thought by now the two Western leaders that would have bit the dust by now would be Trudeau and Macron.
They're on about Trump being this end of democracy. And yet the left wing had Trudeau in power, that when people were innocently protesting, he was locking them up and then freezing the wages. How more of a dictator do you want in that long, foppy-haired, blue-eyed twat? Even the Canadians hate him. They can't get rid of him the same way we can't get rid of Sadiq Khan in London. They're like dried feces on a toilet bowl that just won't go with Harpic or bleach. They're just trying to scrub these bastards away, and they will not go away. And everybody hates them.
This is what I keep coming back to, and only time will tell. Is Trump in that club?
Well, somebody asked him, are you going to release the JFK files and the UFO Area 51 or Lockheed files? And he was kind of half and half with that, and I expected his answer, because I think he said, I don't want to misquote him, that he would have released the JFK files, but it's too much. It's too... I think it would have a seriously detrimental effect on certain agencies. We know who, and I think that's why. I think Bobby Kennedy's murder, I think that will come out. But so far as the ufology stuff and AUPs, I think as long as the military can try and attain something that's a weapon from superior technology, that ain't going to be released. So forget it. Not at all. I wouldn't blame Trump for that. You can see it's not going to get released. We know aliens are amongst us because we've seen Greta Thunberg.
You think she's an alien? Well, this is what I keep saying. We've got to wait and see what happens. Because for me, if Trump's a man of his word, he's got to bring people to task, such as, well, he's already said he's definitely going to get out of the WHO again.
Yeah.
Which I think can only be a good thing.
The Paris Climate
Agreement again. But they come out of these things. If he does, it's got to be a permanent thing, or it's got to be, like such as the WHO, it's got to be rejigged for what it was meant to be, and not just a power grab for everybody's freedoms.
Mm.
So there's people like him, Anthony Fauci.
Yeah.
He's got to be brought to task. Hillary Clinton.
I don't think he will. I think he'll be more magnanimous this time around. He could have locked Hillary Clinton up 8 years prior. I don't know. I think he'll have too much to do to be worrying about past. He always said, though, I do get even if people deserve it.
If somebody has hurt you, if somebody's gone out of their way to hurt you, I think that if you have the opportunity, you should certainly go out of your way to do a number on them. And I've had more criticism about that one statement in my book than any other statement.
If he doesn't take these people to task now, are they going to come back after him?
That's what tells me he's not part of this, because there's so many people don't want him there. From all sides.
But is playing devil's advocate here, is that just to get the rest of the people on side? So they follow Trump, he's this great leader he's there to save you. So everybody stops rebelling, thinks the saviour's here when the saviour isn't here. And before they know it, they're all tied up in knots and totally under full one world government control.
Well, anybody that looks towards a politician as their saviour and happiness is a fool. Happiness comes from within. I mean, okay, politics affects us financially and maybe even physically if wars are involved. But I don't think Trump's part of the deep estate. I don't think he is. I think he's too much of a maverick, and they've literally tried to kill him. And God forbid that happens again.
Are you giving the pyramid sign, is it?
Yeah. How do you do it? Is that it?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I'll sit like that. Yeah. I think the European Union is a good idea. Yeah. I like Hillary. I think she's sweet.
See, going on to Stalin, everybody keeps talking about, are we going to go with America as our greatest ally, or are we going to go with Europe? Well, why can't we do both? Do you know what I mean? Why can't we do trade deals with both? There's no way, if Labour carry on as they are at the moment, that they can possibly go again.
No.
So then you've got the alternative. Now, is it going to be back to the same old two-party thing, or are we going to get, is reform going to come up enough to make a genuine challenge? Because for me, if I was heading up reform now, I would be going after Labour like you've never known, because that's the votes they've got to win. The biggest danger for me is if Reform and Conservative just compete against one another and they take enough votes off each other to let them slip in the door again. Transition period. It's an interesting concept that they have a couple of months. Like, we have an election, things change the following day, new government comes in, that's it, off you go. Apparently, some of the worst decisions in American history have been made during the transition period.
Really?
Including the setup of the Federal Reserve.
If we suspect is right that Trump says, you can't have more US dollars, the NATO needs to pay more, which is quite fair, which is what he did last time. I think to bolster public support, I think there's going to be a false flag happening in Ukraine, something big, maybe not nuclear, but something that makes the West go, oh my God, we've got to keep supporting Ukraine on this. I think it's inevitable. There'll be something that happens. Because can you remember we were trying to thaw relations with Russia some years back, and then the poisonings happened. And that's happened quite a few times. It just seems to be that there's a certain element that doesn't want us and Russia, or to bring Russia into the fold, as it were, as just another country.
Well, talking of false flags, as part of the deal or the negotiation, when they get round to it, that'll be an interesting talking point. The pipeline, and the pipeline that got blown up, which Putin is adamant that it was America that did it. So as part of the deal, will the pipeline just go away, or will somebody have to hold a hand up to that somewhere along the line? That'd be interesting.
What a sad state of affairs. Vote for the lesser evil. That's not good, is it?
Is Donald Trump not working for the same people as what Joe Biden was working for? And if you believe that, then we're all fucked.
I don't like societies and communities and secret societies and organisations and fraternities. I don't like anything like that. We've got to remain individuals and know our own power and self-worth. And we are run by these insidious, insalubrious organisations that never seem to have our interests at heart. Everything seems to be getting worse.
2025 is going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah, probably not be here, mate, but probably either dead or locked up.